come into the live stream by hitting that like button. We'll get more people to join in. It's always more fun when we have people joining in for the comment section and have more interesting comments and questions. Today, we're going to be talking about the best currency the world has ever seen. And so I had a lot of people ask me, like, what's the solution? How do we fix it? Like, what is the best currency? How do we do things so that it's more appropriate? I don't know how to like quite state the question, but in my mind, I don't look at the economy in this fashion. Like, to look at it in that way is to have an expectation that there is a solution to the problems that exist out there, and there will always be problems. There is no solution. It's like, I mean, there's solution to individual problems, but there's no solution to all problems. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in the idea that you should just understand it for what it is, and understand that there's just no other way of just doing things other than positioning it for you, for the way that you understand the economy. And so by understanding like how the current way we do things, especially when it comes to the financial banking system, stuff like that, it's really important to understand like the history, like how did we progress into this? It's easy to just quickly state that it's like, oh, well, it's, New World Order powers that are coming down and creating these issues that we find out here, and they just want to make us all debt slaves. Now, if you just want to look at it at that and say, okay, wash your hands of the rest of it, you don't need to look any further, then so be it. But when I look at how the currency evolved to the position that it is today, I see a much different history involved. Not saying that people haven't taken advantage of it. Like, I'll definitely say there is people out there who really understood the system and completely took advantage of it and have used it in a system that we are now suffering through debt slavery kind of aspects. But it was our own doing. Like, we didn't have to choose to do this. We did. We volunteered. People don't realize that. So when we look at like what is the best currency, if you got gold, fiat, crypto, and these are the three ways that you're looking at it, you really have to take into consideration like, why don't we use gold now? We have a choice. We can use gold. I mean, I got silver in my pocket right now. Look here, I'll show you, just to prove it. See, I carry around silver with me because I believe in it. Like, I believe in the ownership of silver. To me, it's the only way that you can get out of that third-party claim. It's the only way that you can position yourself that says, whatever happens out there within the banking system, governments, whatever, I got some sort of value right here. It's been valued for 5,000 years. I don't have to trust anybody's belief or whatever. It's already proven itself on its own. So when I think about like what gold and silver are, I don't think about it in the same thing that I think about like what fiat currency is. Because understanding that gold and silver could serve as a currency, right? I mean, you can use it as a currency. That's cool. But you can also use it as a store of value because it has actual value to it from what it is, being a vital commodity to man. So understanding it in that sense, you can put your value or your thought of savings into something of such nature as silver, because you don't have to worry about that third-party claim. You don't have to worry about power grids. You don't have to worry about anything like that. The only thing you have to worry about is whether or not you can continue to hold on to it. Okay? And so when you have such an item such as that, it is completely different from anything else that you're going to consider when it comes to fiat currency or even cryptocurrencies. It has similarities that are involved, especially when it comes to the currency part of things, where you're able to do a transaction with it. But the item itself and what it does in a complete whole cannot be compared to anything else than what it does. And there's nothing else that compares to that. And so understanding that's the reason why it ended up being the currency in the first place for 5,000 years is because of how people didn't have to put any trust into anything else out there. They didn't have to put any trust into governments or banks or anything. All they had to do was just be handed the silver and deal was done. It was all over. So this is the reason it held on to, it held its value throughout years. So as we moved into a fiat currency, it was for the ability to do transactions. People didn't realize how this moved into it. People think that it was just introduced and says, hey, you're going to just use this fiat currency, ha, 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 right? This is what a lot of people kind of consider. but to also know that we had silver certificates, Federal Reserve notes, US Treasury notes, all floating around in currency all at the same time. These are many different forms of currencies that are not necessarily in a form like having metal in your hand, right? I mean, a silver certificate is a promise, just like anything else is. And to understand, like, the rest of them are liabilities. And understanding that the liability coming from the Federal Reserve that created the Federal Reserve note is a liability built off of US Treasury debt. It's built off mortgage-backed securities. See, most people get very lost and confused when it comes to this particular topic, but to understand it for its completeness, you have to really understand how it is that it came into its introduction, because most people would look at the dollar and say, yeah, they cheated us. They created this thing so that they could put us into debt slavery and take all the gold out of the system. And this is how a lot of people would think about it. And if you take that consideration and look for the evidence of it, you can almost see it. You can tell the tale of it. In fact, a lot of people would convince you with some pretty like not only dramatic belief in telling of the story, but the evidence that comes through it is very compelling as well. But to truly understand how this went down is that we have to take into consideration that we volunteered for it to take place, because it was our own fault. We didn't have to accept it. See, when gold was in the system, we all understood that it had value to it, right? I mean, I understand it today. That's why I carry it around, right? But we also understand we want to do transactions. And if gold and silver limit the amount of transactions that are available, because ultimately it's a deflationary currency, the bigger that business grows, the more concentration of the wealth and that takes place, and that concentration of wealth is what deprives the people from being able to do the transactions, and so be the debts or the boom and bust cycles that take place from it. So how do you prevent this from happening is an elastic money supply, where the fiat currency was introduced to try and smooth out these business cycles, where you would have this concentration of wealth during the hot economic moments where a lot of business was being done and people were producing and saving. They said during this time they could expand the currency. And people were very excited about this idea, because if you had a certain amount of dollars, you could go and get your gold from it. So they thought of dollars as gold. They didn't have to take it. They chose to do it because they wanted to do the transactions. And even though they believed it at the time, it was still just paper. It had no value like this. It was serving as currency, but as serving as a form of value, it was only in your head. It was in all our heads. So as time continued on and they continued to expand the money supply, which you knew they were going to do, especially if government had access to the availability of issuing out debt and have ever expansion of government, having people more reliant on the government welfare or the government subsidies or the government interventions or whatever it is that's out there. You knew that they were going to take advantage of it. And again, it was our volunteering to do it. We had a choice at the time. We chose not to figure it out or understand it or believe it or whatever it was at the time, but we didn't have to accept them Federal Reserve notes. We chose to do it. And so even today, as we start to move into a cryptocurrency form, we're going to find that there is a way of saying, no, we are not going to accept the cryptocurrencies. We're already doing it. It's starting to take place. You can see it happening. And there's nothing you can really do about it, because whatever it is that you choose to do, you can't get your neighbors and everybody else to not do it too. And as they have no idea what has taken place and will have no idea that they are actually transacting in cryptocurrencies or central bank digital currency or something of that nature when they're swiping their card, so long as they get the transaction done, because that's the only thing that was really important to them in the first place, because they're now voluntarily doing it. And it will continue to go this way, because currencies can change form. See, people ask, what is the best currency out there? It was just like, the best currency is the one that you can do a transaction with. I mean, people ask me all the time, how do we fix this system? Well, you got to understand how come it is that we got to this point. Once we're here, it's just like, how do you fix this? You can't fix it. There's no fixing it, right? I mean, what is the fix? It's not the fix. It's just what it is. This is where we are. And to understand how it works and how we got here and how it is that we are voluntarily doing this, right? Then it also gives you a better understanding of why it is that you would want to hold on to gold and silver, right? These are my two pieces. This is a generic bullion piece, right? I like this one. I forget who gave this to me. I think it was Scratchy who gave it to me, if I remember right. Anyway, it has this cool skull, and I don't think you can see it in the dark. And then I got this one right here. This is a silver bar, but it's cool. It's sterling silver, right? So it's not pure silver, but it's the only piece that I have that's weighed out in grains. So I carry those two pieces around all the time. And I understand how the difference in the folding dollars that I have in my pocket, and I can also understand that there will be a moment at some point in time where I'll be swiping my debit card or my credit card or whatever it is that I'm using at the time in a digital form, and it will most likely be transacting in some sort of central bank digital currency or a stable coin of some sort. Like, that is coming to the future. There's zero doubt in my mind. So when I think about how it is that these transactions can be done, I think, okay, what is the ultimate currency? You know what it would be? The ultimate currency would be for each and every single person to be as productive as they could possibly be, which is the thing that they should be doing anyway, right? Being the most useful, serving person that they could ever possibly be. And if you were to do that on an extreme level and just give it all away, every single person out there, every bit of understanding that they have about technology and advancements and all that other stuff, if they were to simply just give it all away, and of course you would have people who would mooch off of it and do all that other system. Okay, well, whatever. We have the ability to be in a productive way beyond that of what it is that we need. And the ability to have as much as you could possibly ever want is ability to have just to give it all away. And the people who would be hoarding it of it all wouldn't have any use of it because they couldn't profit off of it because it would all be available to everybody anyway. Right? It's like, that's the ultimate currency. Everything else is going to create corruption. It'll create, inequalities. It'll create greed. It'll create all the other stuff that's out there. Now, don't get me wrong. Greed is good in a way because it actually creates innovations and gets people motivated and to go out there and profit and, make things happen. And so I don't have any problem with profit. I don't have any problem with using a currency. I don't have any problem with gold or dollars or cryptocurrency or giving it all away if that's the way that we want to all do it. I have no problem with any of that stuff. Right? But understanding how it works and understanding that that's not the way we're going to go, we're not going to end up giving it all away. We're not going to go back to a gold and silver currency. We're probably going to end up moving out of fiat in a paper cashless form or a paper into a cashless form of digital currencies, stablecoin kind of process. And it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, we will be there. So once we're there, people are going to ask, what is the better currency? They're going to argue about getting back to a gold standard or something of that nature, and I just don't see it happening. We're not in a position in which that moving into a deflationary currency, such as that of Bitcoin or gold and silver or something of that nature, is going to be conducive to the people's idea of being into taking out debt to start businesses or take out debt to have ideas as far as expansion of government projects or something like that. It just wouldn't be available to them because it'd all be limited to the amount of currency that's available, and that would be the limited amount of Bitcoin or gold or whatever it is that you have out there. Everything else that's a fiat currency can just be produced at will and leveraged out there onto the future, which, excuse me, again, isn't a great position to be in as far as us the people, but regardless of what it's great or not to be in, this is what we're in. Okay. Anyway, I babbled on long enough. What are we at? 15 minutes into it. I love it. All right. Gold standard puts the power of the world into the hands of those who own the gold mines in the state if they nationalize the mines. And it doesn't matter because it still creates a Cantillon effect that we have to all understand. There's an economic force that will come from the gold standard that eventually the mine will run out. Right? That's where the new money is coming from. It's coming from the mine. So now if you have a very let me just, I don't even want to say like communistic or socialistic or anything. I'm just going to use the word stubborn, right? If you have a very, right, very diplomatic word to use inside of this, if you have a very stubborn country, government who says, no, you're going to take this new money and you're not going to actually truly enjoy it, right? We're just going to put this new money from the mines into production and we're going to produce stuff for other people, as many people out there, and we're not going to enjoy any of the stuff that we produce, right? We might enjoy a little bit of it, but the amount that we enjoy, we got to make sure to dissipate out there to the rest of the people so that we can continue to produce for them. Because the moment that we stop producing for them and they are producing for us, our gold mine will run out and we will not be able to bring in any more of that production and we will fall into pain and misery. So we could put the boot on the face of the people while this is taking place and force them into production. You see how this is described? You hear where I'm kind of coming from? We get this money in, we're going to tell the people, no, you can't go and enjoy this money. You're going to live in a particular way and you're going to produce, and that production is all going to belong to us so that we can make sure that you don't move into luxuries and start importing the foreign production. Because the moment that you do that and the new money runs out, we all fall into pain and misery. Right? So this is hard. This is not something you can fix. Believe me, I believe in gold and silver, right? Totally. Like I even my necklace. I got a necklace here, my ring, right? I got my ring right here. It's a silver coin. It's a 50-cent piece that's cut into a ring. It's pretty cool. Right? This is not something you can fix. And it's better to understand it for what it is. Like you're not going to be able to fix it with Bitcoin, and you're not going to be able to fix it with a special XRP thing, whatever. I mean, I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care how many transactions you can do on the Lightning Network. To understand how it is that a currency is going to end up either forcing a country into luxury in that new money churning off and forcing them into debt. If you have a limited amount of currency, it will definitely happen. There will be booms and bust cycles, guaranteed. Right? Or else you have a very stubborn looking government. All right, moving on here. By the way, guys, I'm only going to probably go for another, I don't know, I'm not going to go for hours because Freddie's in basketball and I forget. I think he gets out here in about 40 minutes. All right, there is an experimental research for cancer using gold. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, silver is also been used in all kinds of medical purposes for its antimicrobial. All right. Let's see here. Han Dynasty, great to see you. I hope you are having a great day. Hi, Neil. You guys are talking amongst yourselves here. Sounds familiar. Keep going. All right. Bitcoin will not move without XRP. I'm still working, so still have my hands full. That's all-nighter. All right. Okay, gatekeeper. Yes, once you exhaust the mine, you put the hands into those who own gold and therefore the state. Right. And see, now this is the problem that these nations were facing. All right, how to? Hey, thank you for joining the channel. I'll try and get back to that and not forget. Thank you for joining the channel, by the way. I am going to be doing a bunch of member-only live streams next week where we are going to break down the recent speeches coming from the Federal Reserve. We're going to talk about monetary policy. Those who are really looking to understand monetary policy in its entirety, not the one that comes from not the one that comes from the mainstream media that has some sort of spin and twist to it that's going to be propagandized so that they can guide you into the thoughts, but the real idea of what it is that the central banks are up to. These speeches are it, and I've been breaking them down on member-only live streams, which are absolutely, in my opinion, the best place that you can go to try and understand what's going on within the economy and especially monetary policy, which I feel is probably the number one thing that impacts all our lives individually that we can actually do something about on an individual basis by simply understanding how it is and how it works. And since most people are looking at the Federal Reserve incorrectly, like 99% of the people, even people who used to work at the Federal Reserve, I don't believe get it in the fashion that I have figured out, I guess. I don't know, sound arrogant about it, but that's really the truth of it, right? The way I break it down, I can't find anybody else who does it. Like nobody, except the words coming from the Federal Reserve. They're the only ones who seem to communicate the stuff that I'm trying to convey out there to the, to the people, so they can get a better understanding of what it is that's going on. But back to that statement about the mines running out. This is the problem that most people just don't seem to think about when it comes to the gold standard, is that we import stuff. Think about this as really simply, right? We import stuff, and if we import stuff, we have to pay for that stuff. And if we're paying for that stuff when we're on a gold standard, that means we're exporting the gold. And eventually we run out of gold as we're importing the stuff, because we cannot bring in new money. How do we bring in new money? That's the problem. Like back when we had a production nation, we would produce stuff for the world and the world sent us their gold. That was awesome. This was the reason why we were able to have such a high standard of living. Everybody who was in a production job, which could have been a very regular blue collar, everyday average Joe job, and be able to produce things for the world, and the world was sending us their gold, it's no wonder why we had a high standard of living. This makes sense. Production saving nation. And so, yeah, it had its problems. It had issues. There was, all kinds of stuff that was going on. But this was the reason why a single income could produce enough for a whole household, being that production nation. We're not there anymore. There's no way we're going back to it. Like, we can go back to it. I'm not saying we can't. The problem with it is we have to have a lesser standard of living so that we can compete with the rest of the world. Now, here's another way I thought about it. Like, okay, let's say we don't lessen our standard of living. Let's say we maintain our standard of living and allow the rest of the world to catch up to our standard of living, so our standard of living is no longer a disadvantage to us. Then we would be able to go back into being a production nation that we could sell to the rest of the world. How does that look? Like, what does that really mean? Do we have to sit around for how long to wait for the rest of the world to catch up to the high standard of living that the United States is comparatively to them, so that we can be able to compete against them in a production manner? To me, like, I think about that as like, how is that supposed to even go down? Right? How long would that take? How much of the world do you have to consume in order to, with that higher standard of living, in order to no longer find places that are cheaper to produce? Sorry, my battery's dying here. There we go. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on here. Thank you so much for joining the channel too. So you're really going to enjoy this. We're going to hit a bunch of them next week, because I actually have a bunch of days off next week. So I'm going to be blasting through a bunch of those. Where are you guys going? That's the problem with plugging this thing in. It has a tendency to drag it down. All right. So, but I'll be making announcements for it. Tomorrow I got all kinds of stuff going on. So we'll probably start this like Tuesday, I'm guessing, and we'll figure out some times to do these member-only live streams. I know not everybody has like time off during the day, like got day jobs or something of that nature. You'll always be able to go back as a member and watch the videos again. And all right, let's see here. If the USA doesn't bring in the money, then why is the U.S. stock market 70% of the global market? Nobody invests close to that amount in other markets, right? It's because they are, well, there's no, okay, since the entire world, well, what other choice do you have at this point, since the entire world is now on a fiat currency system? And a lot of people haven't put a lot of money into gold. I mean, you think about it, it's at what, $26,000 now or something, $2,600 right now. Some people go into Bitcoin, whatever. But when you think about like the safest places that you could ever possibly be, you're going to be in U.S. Treasury, U.S. real estate, U.S. stocks. When you compare it to any other currency that's out there or any other country, there's really no other place that's a safe haven as much as it is the United States. So when you have as much money that has been expanded into the money supply as we've had over the last few years, even, I mean, going back to really 2008, when you think about the expansion of the money supply, that it has to go somewhere eventually. It can't all sit in the bank's reserves forever. People will borrow that, and as it gets borrowed into the system, it has to find a place to go, and eventually it finds its hands into it finds its way into the hands of the rich, who then put it into real estate, stocks, bonds, right? All the stuff that, rich people buy. All right. I just missed this morning's stream by like 15 minutes. See, like Cody is in Australia, right? Hey, Cody, here we go. Cody, are you still a member? I don't know if you are, man. I don't see that, are you? I don't see the little star there next to your name. All right. It's a bummer. Cody's a great kid, man. I really like Cody being part of this group. All right, gatekeeper. Before we had the Federal Reserve, America had the best industrial capacity, high living standard. We didn't need to become Chinese to compete. No, I mean, well, the thing is, it's like I mean, you think about what it is that we did to eventually get ourselves to the point that we had. We were selling stuff to the world. Like, you have to produce and sell. We have our own minds. We could have kept it right here, local or whatever. That's not what happened. We produced great stuff, and we eventually got so good at producing great stuff, we sent that great stuff out there to the world. This isn't like, it's not hard to understand. Cantillon describes it back from 200 years, even before the Americas, right? Even before the United States. So it's like it's not something that you have to reinvent. Like, it's something, it's going to tell the tale differently. Like, it's not going to be exactly the same, but the underlying economic force is there. And you can recognize it for what it is. Like, the better you get at what you do, the better standard of living you want to have for what you have done. Right? That's not like, that's not hard to understand or believe. So if you are working harder at what you do and you are exporting your hard work out there for a return of money and wealth, and you take that money and wealth and you elevate your standard of living, this happens if whether you're a person or a country or a corporation or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. This is the way it works. And so once the new money turns off, your skill is no longer competitive against other people, and you're not able to acquire more of it. Then you have to maintain what it is that you have, like, put yourself to, that position that you have taken. And if the things around you begin to get more expensive and you no longer are able to compete, right? This is what a lot of people are facing. You got to figure out how to get new money in. So now you have to take on ever increasing amounts of more work, or you have to become more productive at what you do. Otherwise, you're going to find somebody else out there who says, hey, man, I can do what you do, and I'm going to do it for cheaper, right? Because that's how it works. And it's not, there's no point in getting mad at it, right? There's no point in getting mad. It's like, if you get mad about it, then you have an external expectation that will never be fulfilled, because then everything that you have to do in your life in order to position yourself for a better being, you're going to end up blaming an external out there, and you're going to say, hey, this is the problem. It's out there. These guys need to vote differently. They need to be in a better position. They need to make decisions that are going to be better for my life, because I'm not, like, what you're doing is not conducive to what I want to do, right? So, like, what you want to do is have them behave in a way, somebody out there, all of them out there, in a way that says, yeah, what I am doing is appropriate. Instead, what you have to do is you have to look out there and say, yeah, it's all screwed up, right? It sucks. But because it sucks, I have to now make decisions that are most appropriate on account of that. This is heavy stuff out here, and it's no joke, right? People think that they can just say, hey, this is the better way out here. Go for it, man. How do you change everybody's life? Make everybody in your neighborhood, in your school, in your church, in your job, everybody, make them all believe the way that you believe. Good luck with it, right? Because you have the best idea out there, but nobody else is going to go with it. I mean, you might get one or two other people to go with it. So instead, it's just like, you look out there and you say, okay, this is the way it's going down. This is how come it went this way. Yeah, sure. Okay, these other people took massive advantage of it. I don't believe that they did it on purpose. I believe that they saw it coming that way, massaged the situation, and took advantage of it. Okay, sure. We can blame them. Great. Now what do we do about it? Right? Understand that you have to have it. You have to have all that forms of information, understanding, and knowledge of it, and then understand too that you can position yourself any way you want. Like, you don't have to have them do it. You don't have to get them to do it. You just start doing it yourself. And if we all started doing it, saying, no, man, I mean, if you want me to do anything for you, you're going to have to give me one of these. You got one of these? I'll give you one of these if you want to do that. Right? Whatever. And once we all start behaving in this fashion, they won't have any other choice, but we don't do it that way because we want the easy route, which means I want to put my money towards something that is going to give me a return where I can go out there and enjoy myself and not have to worry about whether or not my retirement's not going to be there. I want that to be there, and I want the government to make sure that it's there, and it's their fault if it's not there. That's how most people think. Sorry, I don't mean to go off. All right, here we go. Exactly. No point in responding emotionally. Just try to learn from it and grow. All right. Currency isn't just a medium of exchange. Yes, it is. Okay, maybe it's not. Hold on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't jump on it, Lucas. I'm sorry. But it's also a tool for manipulating activity. And as Yui has pointed out, it's now the information surrounding the currency that is being used as the tool. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's like always been the case. Like, we all, like, you have to understand that there was a time that there was something as simple as using sticks, right? They were called tally sticks. Look them up, right? There was tally sticks that was used as currency, and it worked as a currency for 400 years. It was like 400 years they used tally sticks. Just little wooden sticks that were split in two. Half of it would be with marks on it, and they would go into, half of it would go into the king's treasury, and the other half would go out there for circulation. People would use it for a medium of exchange, and the taxes were paid with these tally sticks. They would be matched up with the treasury's piece, right? Once these two were matched up, then the debt was paid or the taxes were paid or whatever it was. And this is how currency was used in the medieval times or whatever it was. I can't remember what years it was. But this was a form of currency. Seashells were a form of currency. Big giant boulders were used as currency. Cattle's been used as currency. People have been used as currency. I mean, currency is just a form of exchange and value of, like, my goods and services for the other goods and services. That's really all it is. And so to understand that it's not anything other than, than just another piece, like you were saying, another tool out there, it doesn't make any difference what it is. You need to figure out how to use it in order to position yourself. And most people use it to get themselves into trouble, right? They put themselves in a position in which they says, hey, man, I have to now take my future and put it towards my past, right? And this is like a scary thing to do that most people then look at as that debt slavery. See, if you didn't have debt, if you didn't have all this stuff, people were like, man, we shouldn't, like, some people say, like, we shouldn't have debt issuance or usury or something of that nature, right? Okay. Now, I think about it like this. If you didn't have a banking system like we do today, if you didn't have one, and you had an idea, and I'm just going to take, for example, that this would even be in a hypothetical situation to begin with, because I just don't think the economy would even appear to be looking anything like it does today without debt. But let's just say, for example, we had something similar of an economy that appeared in nature that is today, where we had something of like a pizza parlor, right? And you had an idea for a pizza parlor, and you wanted to build or like take this old restaurant, refurbish it, turn it into a pizza parlor because you make the best pizzas ever. And now you go and you try to do that on your own with no money. It's going to be very difficult, right? Now, I'm not saying you can't do it. Maybe you put some blood, sweat, and tears into it and be very resourceful and you're able to do it. Some people have done, like, grander things, right? It's possible, but most likely you're probably going to have some sort of funding. Now, if there's no debt, you're not getting that, and there's no funding that you're going to be issued by any bank or anybody else out there, but there could possibly be the loan that comes from your uncle, right? Maybe your uncle will give it to you, you're lucky. Most people don't have a rich uncle, but you do have an uncle that may be rich who is willing to lend it to you. And so now here you're into that lending position again. But now your good idea can come to fruition. You're like, yeah, I'll take it, uncle. Thank you, bro. I will take that money, go put it towards the restaurant, build me up the best pizza parlor ever, have that money flowing in, and then I can pay it back to my rich uncle, right? This sounds very similar to the beers and sauce analogy, right? I mean, this isn't hard to understand. And so without that extra possibility coming to the economy of debt issuance, then we would never have these good ideas come to fruition. Like never, I shouldn't say never. We wouldn't have a lot of these wonderful ideas coming to fruition. Some people would never get the opportunity to bring that wonderful pizza to the community. And this is where I'm kind of getting at when I say this system isn't something to be negative about. It sucks. Yeah. Okay, great. We got over that point. How do we deal with the fact that we're in this and that you're not going to get out of it? It's like saying, hey, man, this air is toxic. I don't like living in this toxic air. And I was just like, okay, so where are you going to go? All right. You're going to go live in some bubble somewhere and not like, you're going to go live off the grid somewhere, right? And not be part of this. I mean, go for it. I mean, that might be actually a pleasant existence, very calming and, and not very, occupied with the things that are going out there in the world. Just focus in on your little plot of land, doing your little thing. Sounds wonderful, actually. Yeah, I mean, hell. All right. What time are we getting into here? 35 minutes. Okay. Probably going for another 20 minutes or so. Was great having your pops here. Oh, okay. Let me move here to... Okay. Let me back it up a little bit. Bye-bye UE, Germany, Japan, unless... Or EU, sorry. European Union, Germany, Japan, unless the economies can stand on their own. I mean, I'm still wondering. I like this channel because of these clear points. Well, thank you. How will this affect stocks? I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't look at this information to try and understand how it is that I'm going to make a bunch of money off of it. I'm just naturally making money. I'm not making money. I'm naturally positioning myself to be in a way that the money is now flowing towards me through Bitcoin purchases, through the stock purchases that I've had. I have relentlessly told people over and over and over again what it is that I invest in. I am not doing anything special or unique. Right? Literally, I am not doing anything special or unique. I have bought in a very simple position inside of Altria, right? Ticker symbol MO, right? Mo. I did that for the dividend payment of it. It's been an okay stock. I've taken a huge position in it as far as where I put my money as far as stock positions go. I'm not going to really buy much more after this. I'm going to be investing more into things like the total stock market ETF, the Vanguard total stock market ETF, the Russell 1000 growth stock ETF from Vanguard, the ExxonMobil position that I have, which is very small, and then Coinbase. Coinbase has by far done the best out of everything out there. I've put very little into it. It has moved into by far the highest position inside of the stock portfolio. I did not expect it to do as well as it has. I'm up 287% on that position. I'm not advocating that people go out there and buy it. I've been telling people the entire time what I have done, right? And I'm not keeping it secret, and nor today have I. That's what ended up happening. Same thing with Bitcoin, $50 a week or every other week. Right now, since it's moving up to an all-time high, I never purchase at an all-time high, so I have not made a purchase in Bitcoin for over a month. All right, so that's like once it moves into a different position, then I'll, like as far as coming down, at least some, I'll start buying back into it. Same thing with Coinbase. Like I'm not taking any position when it's at or moving up to what seemingly is the all-time highs or maybe like running at peaks. I will always, back off because dollar cost averaging, it doesn't really matter if I mean, I can save the money and put in $100 investment in at the end of the month. So just being kind of cautious at the position is the only kind of theory or strategy I actually take, So anyway, moving on. All right, I think we're about to see the Berkshire Hathaway effect. I don't know. What's the Berkshire Hathaway effect? I got to look that one up. Warren Buffett buys low and sells high. Yeah. The hawk to a chick is probably going to jail. Yeah, I heard about this. Is this real? Is this really? I mean, I was always I was thinking, dang, the internet is badass. that somebody could stumble out of a bar, just be drunk as hell, get a mic stuck in their face and say, tell a joke, and they blast something out that gets so much attention. I was thinking, because listen, I'm like an entertainer at heart, right? So if you can grab the attention of people and get them to, step away from what it is that they are thinking about or living for just a moment so they can laugh and make jokes or something, to me, that is like one of the coolest things to have happen. And this chick did it on a way that was just like swept the nation across like the entire globe and became so famous at it. And I thought, man, what? Like I wasn't like, I mean, at some point, you just have to shake your head and, man, this is ridiculous. But still, that is way cool for that to be able to happen. Right? In my opinion, I think that's neat. And, to think that she has actually moved herself into a position in which that she might be in trouble, I mean, that sucks. It was just like, nah, man, that's not the way this is supposed to go down. You're supposed to stumble out of that bar, say something so funny that you get $1 million off of it, and your life is cool from that point on. That's the type of, experience that should have taken place. Not one that moves into greed and then eventually jail time or something like that. That sucks. That's like a terrible thing. All right, let's go check out the super chat. Hey, where did it go? All right, we got AI. I love it. All right, thanks for the $5 Canadian. Been in crypto since 2012, and to be honest, something fishy is going on. I think crypto didn't just come out of nowhere. Hyperinflation seems orchestrated. Well, hyperinflation is going to be an eventual outcome. It, I mean, but it depends on how far it goes. Here's the thing. What it's going to come down to, and if you want my honest opinion on what the next currency is going to look like, it's going to go down something like this. And so we have to imagine, we have to take into consideration a lot of stuff, and we have to use our imagination in order to get this scenario down. Okay? Because we have to think, what is a dollar? Right? A dollar is a Federal Reserve note. It's a liability of the Fed. So the Federal Reserve has liabilities and they have assets. Now, if you think about the liabilities being the cash, the reserves, what it is that we use, that's the liability of the Fed is our money, right? And it's not money, it's currency. The currency that we use. That's the liability of the Fed. The asset side is the loans that are out there that they are purchasing. Now, those loans that they are purchasing is U.S. government debt. That's the majority of it. There's also mortgage-backed securities, there's golds, there's SDRs, special drawing rights, which is a basket of world currencies. Anyway, this is what the Federal Reserve is putting on their balance sheet, right? So they have debt issuance on one side, which is the U.S. government treasuries and the mortgage-backed securities, which is basically like another bond that's backed by real estate or mortgages, people making their debt payments. So this is what's on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Dollars are what we use. So when we look at a dollar, we're looking at the liability of the Federal Reserve. This is their liability. To us, it's kind of like an asset, but really it's the Fed's liability. And what is backing it is U.S. government debt, mortgage-backed securities, and sorry, somebody just pulled over here and they're now looking at me like I'm recording them or something. Anyway, and it's used by, it's backed by mortgage-backed securities and then these like a little bit of gold and SDRs and stuff like that. All right, so when we think about it in this fashion, when we hold one of these U.S. dollars, one of these Federal Reserve notes, we're holding the liability of the Federal Reserve's assets. Right? That's an easy way to kind of look at it. Now, if you were to take those dollars, right, and you were to then put those into a cryptocurrency tokenized version, something of that of a stable coin, then what you're going to end up having is a stable coin that now has like the asset liability, like this is the liability of the token provider, right? The guy who's issuing the token, he's putting out the liability, which is that stable coin. The asset is the dollar itself. So you can see how like the dollar now all of a sudden is backing this token that we are now using, because what this is a symbiotic relationship in our mind that they are essentially the same thing. So now here you can have this stable coin issued out there being backed by the dollar. The dollar is being backed by U.S. government debt and in mortgage-backed securities and all that. So we have to think about this path. I know this is really difficult. For some people, it's really easy. What up, bud?
Practice isn't over. Can I walk over with a couple friends to the game?
Practice is over?
I don't know, but Nikolai said me and a couple of other kids could walk over to the high school game.
Okay. All right. All right. Do you have your phone with you?
No, it's dead at the house.
All right. Change of plans. That seems weird. All right. So we have to understand that there's this process that goes down now, right? That you have U.S. dollars being backed by U.S. government debt, mortgage-backed securities. These U.S. dollars, the asset of the the liability of the Federal Reserve, is now becoming the liability or the asset of a stablecoin. The stablecoin is now the liability of the stablecoin provider, whether it's government issued or whatever it comes down to. So now we have to think about this process and how it looks, because most people are not going to consider it any different, right? They're going to look at the dollar, they're going to look at the stablecoin, they're going to say, hey, these two are one and the same. So now as these things start to get out there into circulation, what's going to end up happening is that the monetary policy coming from the Federal Reserve will transfer from the dollar right into that stablecoin. Because again, these things are sharing the same belief system, essentially, right? They're the same thing. And so as this starts to take place and more of these stable coins are moving into the system, the cash essentially is going to disappear as it's becoming tokenized. So now once it has been tokenized and these stablecoin providers have been using dollars as the asset for the liability of the stablecoin, think about what it is that the Federal Reserve can then be putting on their balance sheet in order to continue to issue out the dollars that are being purchased by these people, essentially, for the stablecoin issuance. You see what's happened here? Now, here you have the Federal Reserve, who has said many, many, many times, right? Because once you're in the system, once you're in the stablecoin system and the cash is out, you're locked, right? You're locked in because you can't exit at that point. And there's going to be ways that they're going to, get cash out of the system by basically being a nuisance, charging you to withdraw or deposit cash. But once this has happened, now you got the Federal Reserve, who can then put whatever they want on their balance sheet. Right? And you'll have no way out of it. Like right now, you can say, hey, man, I am not down for the idea that we are using Federal Reserve notes that are being backed by foreign assets. But yet they have the legal authority to buy foreign assets in place of U.S. treasuries. And since they have stated many times that the United States government is on an unsustainable debt path, how is it that they plan on continuing to issue out dollars and not force the United States into absolute bankruptcy through their debt issuance? How do they plan on issuing out more of that liability, more of those dollars? Well, when you look at the scope of possibilities that's out there in the world, if they have the legal authority to buy foreign debt, they can really go nuts on just loading up on foreign debt and spreading that stable coin all over the world with as much debt issuance or with as much liability issuance as they can buy. See, this is really where I think things are going. Like, people talk about the BRICS nations and stuff, and I'm like, man, none of those people want to be a debt issuer. None of them want to be in a position in which that they can provide enough currency for the world to do transactions. Only the United States is wanting to do that. I mean, I'm sure other ones want to do it, but nobody else wants them to do it. People don't even want the United States to do it, and they're the only ones doing it. Right? Like, how could the world ever accept the possibility of anybody else being the world's issuer of currency if they don't even want the United States to do it? Right? Like, they don't like the way the United States is doing. The United States is trying to provide as much currency out there for everybody at low interest rates. Here, use as much money as you possibly want. Right? It's just like they're almost giving it away for free for years. Zero interest rate policy. Okay. And what ended up happening is separated the rich from the poor in a dramatic fashion. I'm like, man, look at what happens here. Okay. Oops. All right. The gold of the bankers is to destroy every nation. The goal. Oh, I'm sorry. Where's my glasses? Why am I not wearing those? All right. The goal of the bankers is to destroy every nation and force them into world government. Gatekeeper. I mean, that's like, I mean, I don't look at it that way. I just don't see it like that. I mean, are there people out there, there's bankers out there who are making that or forcing that to happen? Okay, fine. Yeah. Right. But what are you going to do about it? Like, you can be pissed off about it. It's like kind of like road rage. It's like, why are you getting so mad at those people? It's just like, stop getting mad at them. Just like, let them get way ahead and don't give a shit about them anymore. Right? You know, it's just like, I mean, because there's the way they're going to do it. There's nothing you can do to change this. Like, I mean, I don't like it. I want things to be very different. What I want and what other people want are not the same thing. So how could I possibly want everybody else to be conducive to my life? I need to figure out what it is that's going on out there, understand that they are not going to change the way things are going down, no matter how much I want it to change. I can position myself that makes it a nuisance for them, and I try to do that. Like, I don't take out a lot of debt. I don't buy new things. I put money into gold and silver and Bitcoin, you know. But I'm also understanding that I can't change this system, and that if I want to take advantage of things, then I might be wanting to be in real estate, and then I might want to be in stock market. Because as most people are sitting around waiting for the end times to come, they're missing out on opportunities. All right. The United States is the leader, period. We had the Clint Eastwood Girls Gone Wild in the 90s and free money for many years to come. Gold is the only form of money that is not debt. It doesn't have a natural yield. It just sits there. In fact, it could incur negative yield due to storage costs. And wait to kiss your A goodbye. Okay. You know, I mean, there was a time, listen, this is the problem that I have when it comes to looking so negatively about things that are out there, especially when it comes to New World Order type of stuff, is that there was a time that I looked very deeply into it, right? There was a time that's like all I looked into. I was very much a fan of like the new, like the Alex Jones type, right? You know, I mean, that was the type of information that I was seeking out for a very long time. And I tell you what, I had never been so depressed and so lost and so deep into the gutter of almost losing everything I had, believing that at any moment there was going to be a complete crash to the entire system. Like, this is something that I believed. I really believed it. Like, really, really believed it. I put all the money that I had available to me into gold, into silver. I didn't really have any gold at the time. And considering how much it was at the time, it was everything to me. Okay? To never have that time come where it was a complete crash and the dollar was gone and hyperinflation and all that other stuff led me to believe it was like, man, you are really thinking incorrectly. Think about it, man. You don't have anything going on. You're deep in debt. Your cars are broken. You hardly make any money. What are you doing? I mean, you're thinking that really that there's going to be this new world order takeover, that everything is going to be crashing around you, and that you're going to be laughing your way over to the bank because you have a handful of silver? Right? This is what I thought. And I realized, man, this is incorrect thinking. This is not working. I realized then it was just like, man, your number one problem that you're doing is that you believe that everything sucks around your life, so you make it suck and you drink every day. And every time you drink every day, you're believing that that is actually curing the problem of depression or whatever it is that's going on. It was wrong. All that was wrong. And so I came to the realization, it was like, man, once you quit drinking, you better start thinking correctly. And drinking makes you not think correctly. I don't care what anybody says. Right? You live in an alcohol-based consciousness. Once you get out of that, you're going to realize, man, I was covering up some really incorrect thinking. And once you start correcting that, and it takes years sometimes, some people never fix it, and you start realizing, man, maybe I should probably try being useful and productive. And once you're useful and productive, and you attempt to be useful and productive, and you try to be valuable to the world, and you don't really try to have any expectations of what it is that you can get from all of it, you're going to start finding that good things start coming to you, opportunities start being presented to you, synchronicities start lining up. It's not rocket science. It's hard to believe it. Sometimes it works like magic, and people who talk about it like in this magical experience don't realize that they're just missing out on opportunities that are right there in front of them because they just don't see it from the negative aspects of life that they have taken. They don't look for the opportunities. They don't provide the opportunities to be there, which is easy to do. Once you start doing it, like people say, oh, I tried it for a week, it sucked, I didn't get it. It's not a week. This is an entire lifestyle change. It's the complete lifestyle change in the way that you are thinking about how everything is in the world. And once you have this open mind towards the neutrality, towards all this stuff, and say, then there is no meaning behind it other than the meaning I'm giving it. Much like the guy who's having road rage. He's giving meaning behind the driver that dude is screwing up his life, and that's why he's so angry right now, because if that guy didn't exist, he wouldn't be angry. And I'm thinking, why don't you just let that shit go? Why do you even have to care? Just back off, let him get ahead of you, and just ignore him. Right? Like, that's easy to do. That's the meaning I give it. I don't even know who this person is. Wow. Whoa, that dude's up to it. Let me get over here. Right? It was just like, I don't need that guy in my life. I don't need him involved. I don't need to be emotional about it. I don't need to think about it. Right? I got way better things to do. And this is really how you should look at everything in life. Go the extra mile on everything you're doing. What difference does it make? Like, I mean, like people were like, why are you trying so hard? It was like, why not try hard? Why not try hard at everything you're doing? What difference does it make? Be overproductive. That's what I'm saying. That was the best currency in the world, is be overproductive. Just give it all away. Right? If everybody did that, there would just be nothing but abundance around for everybody to have. So it would be awesome. No currencies at all. Just mass production. All right. Wow, look at this. We got some super chats coming through. Redizon. Thank you, man. Rome fell because delayed giving citizenship. Illegal labor is best luxury good. USA needs what is that? Bits citizenships or bits deported? Is that what I'm reading right? Stop luxury excess. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Rome fell for a lot of reasons. And my opinion is that they couldn't fight any more battles to bring in new money. But, and eventually, because all the production was essentially coming in from foreign production. And so if you don't have any money coming in from the war effort, then it just eventually collapses. So that's, in my opinion, what happened. Now, when you think about like moving into luxuries, it really is. Like if you have cheap labor, that's a luxury. Right? I was like, okay, I got all this money to pay these people to produce all the food and all the clothing and all the other stuff, right? And you can do that within your nation. Well, that's one thing to say, right? It was just like, hey, I can bring in these people and do it. But eventually those people are going to end up producing and saving. And when they start producing and saving, they're going to start accumulating a higher lifestyle to them. And eventually there's going to be foreign production coming in because those people are going to start buying it too. If you are one of the rich people who are paying those people, right, you're going to be the first one to buy in foreign production. You'll be like, whoa, you guys' stuff is too expensive. I'm buying that guy's stuff. And that's going to be the beginning of it. And then eventually it all starts to collapse. Well, eventually it will lead into luxuries and eventual collapse. All right. Thanks for the $4.99, man. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. All right. I think we will be better served by you, as you need to expand the ideal of your channel towards neoliberalism, from public government power to private wealth power, from why America is becoming poor. I mean, the thing is like you're never. If you want to take my ideas and learn it and run with it and go and change the world with it, that's cool. I can only reach the amount of people that I can reach. That's it. And you people who are watching this, the people who are watching this video, who are joining in on this live stream, we're the ones who really want our lives to be different inside of this. Like, we would love to see the rest of the world change and grow with some of the ideas that we have had, but we know each individual one of us is not going to be able to change the world to make it conducive for somebody else, but we can change our world, how it is that we conduct ourselves. I don't want to get into government and say, hey man, listen to my ideas and think this way. That's not what I want to do. Like, I mean, I think this way. I like sharing my ideas. I like sharing the conversation. I like people throwing the ideas like, hey, how come this doesn't work? Or why would this work? Or what about this idea? And it's fun to give it the what if. But ultimately, what I have come to the conclusion of studying this stuff hardcore every single day for 7 years straight, making this channel, putting these YouTube videos together, is that a lot of the questions that people have come up have rehashed many, many times in my mind. And the ideas that I have come up with and the conclusions that I've come to are the same ones over and over again. It's one of the reasons why I've landed on the four economic theories of Gresham's law, Triffin's dilemma, the Cantillon effect, and the bullwhip effect. When you read just about every single economics article out there, you could find one of those four, or maybe a multiple of them, in just about every single economics article you could ever come across. When you really break it down to it, it probably has something to do with one of those four economic theories. And then if you throw my credible threat theory into it and you really understand the credible threat theory and how it was that it was produced over the last 20 plus years on account of the fact that they knew that the Fed funds rate was eventually going to hit the lower bound of zero and was no longer going to be an effective tool, understanding that, which is very complicated, it's understanding monetary policy on a whole different level. Like, way different from what anybody else, like 99.9% of the people out there do not understand monetary policy in what I feel is an appropriate manner. I mean, they get a lot of it they got right. Like, I would even say some people even got it all the way up to like 70%, right? But most people do not have it in the fashion that the Federal Reserve has truly conducted themselves, the strategy that they have, and considering that they use their communication for the monetary policy strategy, for deploying their tool, right? I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, but that is the communication is the monetary policy tool. And that's what they get people to do things with. The adjustment of interest rates has less of an impact on the economy than a lot of people think. And even if it did, it's lag time that's affecting. Like, even all the interest rate cuts that we have experienced over the last few months coming from the Federal Reserve have yet to really impact the economy. It's still a few months down the road before we start feeling the effects of that. So it's important to understand these things for yourself. And then once you do, it's much easier to be making the appropriate decisions for business. You won't be wishful thinking, oh, we get the next administration in there and things are going to be a whole lot different. Well, of course they are. But they're not going to change the underlying economic forces that are out there. And so once you understand these and get these things like really internalized, a lot of this stuff is no longer questioned anymore. So like when I keep seeing a lot of questions that pop up in the comment section, I can easily like give the answer to them because I've seen them so many times. Yeah. And I've thought about it many times. It was just like I go on a research. I thought about it. I was like, wow, would that really be the case? And then I go and I research on it. It's like, man, I don't think people who are giving this argument out there have taken in this other consideration. You know? Because, again, like, I don't know how many times that people are throwing an argument at me and I have, I'm looking at it in the comment section. I go and do the research and then later do a video on it. And I've done this regularly, right? So, like, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it other than it's going to be hard to find an angle that I haven't seen yet. Right? And just because, like, I'm not trying to say that I'm right and everybody's wrong. What I'm trying to say is like, once I see an argument, I feel like I have a counter to it or an agreement to it. And this is really where I found, like, a lot of times some economists I feel are really nailing it, like Jeff Snyder and Brent Johnson. I think those guys called it out a long time ago on how the dollar was going to get stronger going into a world currency issue. And that's exactly what we're seeing. I mean, look at the dollar index grow. People look at hyperinflation scenarios at the same time. The rest of the world is doing far worse than what the dollar is, considering that the dollar is the dominant currency when it comes to paying back all the debts. Like, the world has issued out so much dollar denominated debt. It makes it very difficult to operate in a system that has that much debt issuance in that currency, because everybody is going to want to get paid in that debt issued currency of dollars so that they can pay back their debts. Like, this is like, it's, you got to break it down and understand it simply, but then understand the magnitude of it. Anyway, let's go on to these super chats here. We got some people who are hitting it up. Man, my glasses are just terrible. All right, 9mm professional security. I love it. All right, in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return until the ground. Far out in the what is that? Far out of it wast thou taken, for the dust thou art, and unto the dust shaft thou return. Genesis 3:19. Sorry I butchered that up. I didn't mean to, but I am like, my glasses are either blurry or I'm just getting really old. Oh man, I gotta hurry up and do this so I'm not too old. So old that I can't see anymore. All right. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. The support for the channel. All right. El Ray, $9.99. Hey Simon. Well, thank you very much, man. Thank you so much for that $9.99, man. Very cool of you. All right, was that all of them? Oh, A to Grub. I think we be better served by you as you. Oh, that's right. We already talked that one. Thank you so much for that $10, man. A to Grub. I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome with those super chats. I can't thank you enough for the support for the channel. It's the YouTube algorithm is very difficult. The AdSense thing is so hard to figure out, like what it is that, YouTube wants. And so I just got to the point, it was just like, I just don't care anymore. I'm just going to put out videos whenever I feel like it, on whatever I feel like. I'm not going to try and go out there and make money with the YouTube channel or anything like that, because every time I try to do that, it seems to work negatively against me. So I really appreciate all the support, and I feel like even the super chats coming in just kind of lends credence to the idea that it was just like, the more I let it go, the more that it will be let in. And so thank you very much for those super chats. This is more validating to the idea that I'm not doing this to make money, and that the money will just naturally flow in. So thank you very much for the support. I can't thank you guys enough for that. Really, I can't. They will screw your organic growth. It's not like, yes, and I don't mean to talk about the channel and the business of it, because we're here to discuss economics so that we can all do better for ourselves. But, just to talk about the channel quickly on it, yes, it is like, you are very much at the mercy of the YouTube algorithm and whether or not they want to spread your videos around. There is no rhyme or reason to a lot of it. I know that if I hit particular topics that they want the information spread around, then the information gets spread. It's just like, they just know. And so I don't care. Like, I'm not going to go and start trying to push out information that I know would get a lot of attention. Like, I can do, like, I've done acting kind of stuff. I can make it all outlandish and, scary, and just, tell a wild story and make everybody, like, freak out, and I'd probably get a lot of views for it. But that's not what we're doing here. We're doing this for real, man, because this is the real thing. And I think the people who are watching this channel really appreciate the fact that we are trying to break this down for real, and not just, going off of the whatever it is, the trend at the time that people want to talk about so they can get a bunch of views. I mean, would it be nice? It would be awesome. But the views, the channel, the videos, in my opinion, that have always done the best on this channel are the ones that I never thought would actually do well. In fact, a lot of times there were videos that I thought I should probably have taken down. And so now I don't even think about it in that fashion. Whatever comes out, comes out. And if it's a bad video and I feel, man, you really kind of stumbled on that one, whatever. This is me. This is me out here doing it for real, without notes, without anything, just straight up, Give this dude a like. Yeah, thank you so much. And that's the easiest way to support the channel, is just to hit that like button. As soon as you come into the live stream, the more you hit that like button, the more comments, the more activity, engagements, the more that the YouTube algorithm appreciates that and starts to send it out there. So, what are my glasses here? I gotta go check on Freddy here before too long. I don't know how long this game's gonna go for. I should just let him be. He's old enough. He's with his bros. All right. Does BTC promote productivity? Think long term and macro. Could it be used as a monetary instrument of sorts? No. Not. I mean, could it? Yes. I mean, you could hypothetically talk about it if you want to, but the problem with it is that it's no different from gold. Like, what was the problem with gold? Why did gold disappear from the use of currency or from the economy when it was so worldly accepted? How come it wasn't there anymore? It's the same reason why Bitcoin will not be introduced into the world currency position. Gresham's law, like understanding Gresham's law to begin with. So if the dollar was to completely fail, gone, boom, disappeared, how would that look? That would be very odd. It would be like massive poverty and misery for everybody. Now, moving into a Bitcoin currency, saying a transition into a Bitcoin currency that we can use, Bitcoin's a good currency. The moment that you say, hey, man, what do you want? Do you want to use cash or do you want to use Bitcoin? And you're coming to me and I'm a merchant and you're like, hey, man, I got cash and I got Bitcoin and you're asking me what I'll take. And I say, hey, I'll take either one of them. Are you really going to hand me the Bitcoin? Or are you going to keep the Bitcoin and hand me the cash? Because you got these two in circulation, right? Well, of course you're going to hoard the Bitcoin. Why would you use it? Because if you give it to me and I'm in a position of production and savings, then I'm going to take your Bitcoin and I'm going to hoard it. And then I'm going to put cash out there in the system. And then I'll have you Bitcoin. And the people who are most productive are going to hoard all the Bitcoin. And the only thing that's going to be left out there is cash. That's Gresham's law. Now, if the dollar did completely fail, then yeah, you could introduce a good currency like Bitcoin or gold or some other cryptocurrency possibly or something of that nature, or a basket of them. You could start introducing some sort of other currency that would be out there. That's Thayer's law kicking in. But until the common currency that everybody is using, until that completely fails, Gresham's law will prevent any kind of good currency from coming into use because you will hoard it. I will hoard it. The most productive people will hoard it, right? Just like I'm hoarding Bitcoin and gold and silver today, because those are good currencies as opposed to the dollar being a bad currency. The bad currency is the one that's in circulation. It's always going to be that way. All right. Did I see another one up there I wanted to read? Maybe I missed it. Oh. All right, back down here. Social Security checks are falling because Carter tapped into it to pay the federal Forest Service wages and retirement. This is the thing that I find kind of comical is I don't know anybody my age who even considers Social Security. You know, I'm like 48 years old and literally not a single person that I know my age, none of us talk about Social Security as being there for us in the future. Isn't that weird? Like, I don't know if other generations do or don't, but like it seems Generation X has basically abandoned the idea of getting a Social Security check. I mean, at least that's what it seems to me, because I don't hear anybody talking about it or even considering it going into the future. So I think like ultimately Generation X is probably going to be the last generation or maybe the beginning of a different generation when it comes to Social Security, since we don't really think, I don't think any of us really believe we're getting it anyway. Like, I literally think that most people are just like, oh, yeah, that thing. Huh, that would be cool if that's actually there. It'd be like kind of an extra bonus, huh? Because none of us, I think, believe it's going to be there. Unless they are disabled. Okay, all the politicians use Social Security as a piggy bank. Look it up. Oh yeah, I know. I mean, that's why I don't follow politics a whole lot, because they use that as a little carrot over your face, to dangle out there. Oh, you better listen to us, vote for us, or else this is going to happen to your Social Security or whatever. And that's why I think like a lot of us have abandoned the idea of Social Security. It's like, go ahead and hold that over our heads. We don't care. I don't care. Like, go ahead. Your Social Security, you're not going to be there. And it was like, oh yeah, Social Security. I forgot all about that thing. right? It was like, oh man, we used to use that as a real, like, a real tool for power pushing and stuff. Like, to me, like, eventually, even if it does go bankrupt or whatever, it's just like they use it for whatever purpose, whether they tap into it, whether they go and deploy a bunch of, new government issuance and they find a fancy way to get that out into the system. However they do it, to me, it doesn't really matter. It's a matter of how they get the new debt out into the system, like fill the sluices. That's their goal. It is not like how it separates the rich from the poor is going to be a given, considering that it's new money coming in. No matter how you do that, if you put new money in the system, you are going to separate the rich from the poor. It's no doubt about it. Very little doubt. Yeah. Okay. All right. I am a generation X. I'm a first year generation X. Might get a couple years Social Security. Yeah. Let's cruise down here. 39, and I am right with you. Dissolve that federal forest service and you save Social Security. Mac and cheese for lunch today. Right on, Cody. That sounds good. Rich boomers collecting that Social Security. I've wondered the same thing, Adam. All right. Can monopoly money makers go bankrupt? Well, of course they can. I mean, whether or not they will is going to be a different story, but of course they can. I mean, it's all a matter of debt issuance, and debt issuance comes down to trust on whether or not you're going to get paid back. And once that trust is broken, then it's over. You're not going to be able to, continue to borrow money. And that's where I think, like, a lot of times people think that the United States is facing that situation right now when it comes to a lot of, like, the ideas of BRICS nations or something of that nature. Hold on here a second, guys. Saying something of the idea that the sanctions and the idea that the United States is, like, screwing over all these countries out there by denying them the ability to use dollars. And since that has now taken place, that all these nations out there and all these people are now abandoning the dollar with the idea that they are going to move into their own sovereign currencies or something of that nature. But then if you go and just look at the numbers, and granted, I will give it that there is so much new debt issuance, which gives the ability for this to take place, but there is more foreign holdings of U.S. government treasury debt today than at any time in history. Let me just turn the vehicle on here for a second. So that's really important to understand, is that there right now, when people say that there is a concerted effort to try and get out of the dollar or to de-dollarize or something of that nature, at the same time we are hearing this, what it is actually taking place is that the foreign holdings of U.S. government debt, right, is now at the highest that it has ever been. Those people are expecting to get paid back in dollars. Russia has purchased just recently U.S. government debt. Like, this is not something that they can get out of. They have to have access to dollars, because dollars is what makes the world go round. That's just it. It's all there is to it, Let's see here. He said sex. Did I say sex? Sextillion? Oh, I see. All right, now that I've looked it up, quadrillion comes after trillion, quad after try. What a thunket. Brazilian. Alrighty, guys. How much do we have here? 171 people with 131 likes. We're an hour and 18 minutes into this. So I got to go find Freddie at some point. So let's give it like another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to bail out of here and go find my boy wherever he's at. He's over watching the high school game. All right. Quadrille. Alright. Can monopoly money makers... Oh, we already read that one. Mac and cheese lunch. I'm just kind of cruising back up in here a little ways. I will find out once I can't do my work. I'm going to go for that Social Security. I'm dying of kidney disease, so I'll let you know. Dang. That sucks. Sorry, bro. Alright. Niels, I just did a C15 zeros. Cannot believe we are actually looking at these numbers. It's been a good live. I hope you enjoy your game. Yeah, I think the game's almost over. The number that comes after a trillion... Oh, we already read that. Alright. I'm still not safe yet. Slacking. You ever speak or offer opinion on day trading or future trading? No, I don't. And the reason why I don't do that is because I'm not an investor. Like, an investor and economist are two different people. We look at a lot of the same things. We talk a lot in the same language, but we are not doing the same things here. I'm not like, I mean, I've positioned myself in the way that I feel is most appropriate. I've seemed to be doing okay at it. I think that I could probably have done better if I was paying attention to that sort of thing. But I'm not really using this information with the attempt to make money like a lot of people would think I would. That's not what I do, right? What I'm doing here is trying to figure out the best position that I need to do for myself with what it is that I got going on. And I feel like I'm doing okay. Like, I mean, I have a fairly substantial, like, liquidable asset portfolio, which is pretty nice. I mean, especially over the last few days when you see crypto running as much as it has. I managed to get into a house, so have like a bit of a real estate position by buying into my own home. I've work a day job, so that's essentially, being part of business in some sense. I mean, like, I do sales for a living, and so it's like everything, like, I have my position that I've taken. Like, some people, they want to be landlords. They're not doing anything like I'm doing. Yeah, they're not doing anything like I'm doing. So what they are looking at, the way that they need to conduct themselves, how it is that they feel is appropriate is going to be so far different from what I'm doing. So I don't try to give advice like that. Like, what is day trading advice? I mean, go figure it out. I don't know. There's plenty of people out there on the internet who understand day trading far better than me. And they could probably give you some pretty good advice about it. I mean, I'm looking at the lumber industry and I see lumber is sitting, down between 550 and 600 per thousand, and I'm thinking, man, this is barely profitable for the mills. And even though we get a little spot of demand that comes from an idea that there's going to be lower interest rates or cheaper mortgages or a new administration, which might spark a little bit of the idea that we're going to have some sort of demand coming into the future, it seems to always be lackluster. And if these mills are not looking at a profitable situation come to the future, they're going to continue to tighten up supply. When I talk like this, people listen and they start taking position on account of that. Now, I don't know what kind of position they're taking, but I've had many people come back to me and say, thank you so much for your lumber information. It was so very telling of the future, and I was able to save or make a bunch of money. And I thought, that was pretty cool. I wonder how. Like, my information got you a bunch of money and you saved a bunch of money. You made a bunch. That's cool. How'd you do it? Because of the position that they had taken with their life. Way different from what I had done. I wasn't trying to replace a roof on a house at the time, but somebody who was watching my channel was. And when they saw that the prices were moving up, they thought that they were going to continue to go up, and they watched my channel and they said, well, maybe we should wait. And they come back and tell me, dude, we literally saved like $10,000, $15,000 on this roofing project on account of your information and us postponing the project for a short amount of time in order to save massive amounts on the material. It was just like, I didn't tell people to do that. I was just telling them what I saw. They made that decision on their own based on the information that I had. So I feel like, people are using the information that I have appropriately, right? They're looking at it for themselves as well. I always leave links down in the description to just about everything that I talk about. And that's the way I think is like, that's what I feel is appropriate for this channel. Day trading and stock trading and stuff, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not very good at that thing. There are Russian... Oops. Let me put this on. Oh, that ain't helping none. There really isn't. I am just losing it. Okay, there is Russian gourmet store near me. Russians come and go to the shop. Russians come and go to the shop. They rather live here than Russia. Their rye bread is red from Lithuania. Man, I am horrible at speaking. Is thumbs up is really good. Yeah, I can imagine. Like I have always enjoyed like true, like authentic foreign food, wherever it's from, whether it's Mexico or France or wherever. If I could have the traditional food that was the way that the people had originally intended it for it to taste and be cooked, that's what I look for. Even if it's not something I would really like normally pick for myself, I love the idea of trying new food, new flavors, new flavor combinations, new styles of cooking. I've always been down for that. And I've always experimented. Like anytime anybody was like, even it was like, whoa, man. Um, like my buddy, he used to really test me too. He would go, not, I don't think he really intended on testing me. It's just like it just ended up being a test for me, I guess. But he'd like to go to like the Asian markets and he would come back with like a bag full of these little dried out crabs that were coated in like sesame seasoning or something like that. And these things would be like horrible. It'd be like licking the floor of a cannery or something like that. And I mean, I would try these things. I'd be eating, be like, oh god, they're terrible, and I'd eat a few of them just to try and get some down, just to get with the idea of what they tasted like. But I've always been that way. Somebody says, hey man, you want this chocolate covered cricket or whatever? Absolutely, let's try that thing out. I don't have any problems with any of that stuff. I'll always try, if it's food, if it's meant to be, if it's intended to be eaten, right, then I will eat it. I will try it. And I will make my decision on it. I have never been a fan of liver, right? I don't care how you prepare it. I don't care how many onions or whatever, like, soak it in the milk, whatever you do, right? It's not good. I don't like it. And I will try it if you make it. Yeah, I will try it every single time. And still to this day, I am not a fan. Let's see here. Ryder, hello from Nashville. Caraway Futures is where it's at. John, welcome to the crew. You know what, guys? I'm going to have to call my wife and let her know what's going on because she's going to be wondering what happened to Freddie and me since we're not going home. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you hanging out tonight. We're an hour and a half into this video. It was a great conversation. We have $53.67 in super chats. Again, I cannot thank you guys enough for it. And remember, we're coming up on the holiday seasons and a lot of people are going to do Amazon purchases. Down in the description, maybe I didn't put it in this particular video, but just about every video I do, you can go back and look. Down in the description of the videos, there's a Amazon affiliate link to the Cantillon essay. If you tap on that link, for the next 24 hours, anything you put in your Amazon cart, I will get a little commission for. So all you have to do, you don't have to buy the Amazon, or you don't have to buy the Cantillon essay. But if you click on the link before you go and do your Amazon purchases, I will get a little commission off of everything that you are purchasing. And it's a great way to support the uneducated economist. And you don't have to do anything different than what you are doing. Just follow that link first. Everything is the same. All right. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you very much for hitting that like button. We got 161 people watching. The comments are still rolling through, but I have got to go. You guys are the best. We will next week. So again, let me throw that out there. Next week, we are going to be going through a bunch of the Federal Reserve speeches. We are going to be breaking those down in a members only live stream. So if you're not a member of the channel yet, consider becoming a member of the channel. Again, there's a link down in the description of the video. It's $1 a month. Literally $12 a year, $120 a decade. The price is insignificant, but you are going to be part of a community that is very serious about understanding what's going on within the monetary policies. And I really just don't feel there's any place better than what it is that we are doing here on this channel to understand what it is that's taking place. So thank you very much for being here. Uneducated Economist, you guys are the best. You let me know. All-Nighter, thank you so much for posting that link. Here, I'll give it another minute so that you guys can go and click on that link right now that All-Nighter just posted. Everybody in the chat right now, go click on that link and and put a bunch of stuff in the cart that you were going to be buying for your Christmas presents or whatever it is that you're going to do. And again, the Uneducated Economist will get a bit of a commission off of that. Thank you guys for hitting that like button too. We're now up to 151 likes with 151 people watching. I love it when I see as many likes as I do see people watching as well. So you guys are the best. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.